It is watercolor time. Are you ready to paint some roses? Now, a lot of times when folks paint roses, they like to do it in watercolor in a really loose style. That's not typically my style, the genre of watercolor that I paint. We are going to be painting these beautiful roses today, but we're gonna do it in a tighter, more illustrative style than a loose style. We might bring in some loose elements, but we're gonna have a lot of fun. So let's get started. I've already traced this out. You can download the reference photo and trace it out and paint along with me as well. I highly recommend doing that. You can access the download in the description section. Once you have this completely traced out, the thing that we're going to start with is really mixing the kind of the light pink tones. In watercolor, lighter. We can always go darker, we can't go lighter. What I want to do is I want to really get all of these areas. I'm going to paint all of the pink areas, anywhere that I know needs to be pink, in the lightest color pink tone that I see. So these light colors over here, the light source is coming over here somewhere. And so where that light source is, these lighter tones right here, that's what we want to be working with. Let's see what I can go ahead and mix. I have these new trays that I got that I think will really do the trick as far as helping you see what color it is that I am mixing. So I want to work with the permanent rose color. Yes, we are using permanent rose to paint roses. And I am picking up quite a bit of pigment here, but I want to add a lot of water. Yeah, I want to work on getting this very, very light. So lots and lots of water, which will make the pigment to water ratio really low. Now, I do see like maybe there is a touch of yellow in this. Do you see that? And it's just a very, very, very light. I don't want to make this orange, so I want to be careful. And I'm trying out this new mixing tray, and it is plastic. It's not ceramic or, ceramic, which is what I'm used to mixing with. And it's interesting how you can see the pool of water. It almost looks like a cartoon, but that's really doing what I'm showing you right there. So that's a pretty light pink that I have mixed now, but I want to add some yellow. So I'm gonna take cadmium-free yellow and I'm going to add it over here to my mixing well, and I'm going to get just a drop of this in here. Okay, yeah, that's doing the trick. So I can see what it's doing. I like that effect where I'm having just a very, very light pink effect. Now I am going to go ahead and just kind of put this off to the side here. And I'm going to paint anywhere that I see pink, I'm going to paint it pink. Just very lightly. I'm being kind of gingerly here because I'm looking at the reference photo here and I want to see what is a leaf, what is actually rose. And remember, this will dry a little bit lighter than what we're putting down. So that's an interesting thing about watercolor. It does dry a little bit lighter than what you put down. And these are overlapping right here. I'm bringing some water and I feel like that's even a little bit too dark pink in some places. And I just want to move this pigment down. I'm almost there. I've got some very light pink areas. over here that I want to be sure to paint pink as well. These are more buds. They have not yet bloomed. With the roses dry, I'm gonna go ahead and come in and begin doing the background. And I'm going to make sure that we're pulling this in so you can kind of see, I'm not in any way going to try to make that background exact. However, I do want to just kind of capture some things pretty strongly. I have a new color that I've added to my palette, and it is Vert, I believe. Let's see. Terre Vert, I guess. My French pronunciation, not great here. All of you Francophiles and French-speaking folks, please feel free to correct my French in the comments. I do love France. I think what I want to do is I want to take some of this yellow that I have and I'm going to soften it up with more water. I'm just adding more water here, and I'm going to bring some of the lighter areas that I see in with just some water. Yellow with water. This is a little bit of a contrast. It's not exactly what I see on the page, and that's okay. I'm adding a little bit of an Alicia flair to this and giving it just a little bit more kind of atmosphere by bringing this yellow, this light yellow into certain places. I'm using the, I'm saying arches. It is French. Someone commented and said, it's French, you don't pronounce the R or the S correct. You don't. It's arch, I believe, is how you would pronounce that. And at the same time, if I want it to be spelled correctly with my translation software, I need to pronounce it arches for English software. So you'll hear me do both, and I do know how that one is pronounced, but it's, if you are Googling it, you'll search arches, ARCHES, and that is 140-pound cold press watercolor paper is what we are using today. And this particular paper that I'm using, let's see, it is, I believe, a 7x10 dimension is what I'm looking at here. So if you're looking for this particular cut, you can get the bigger sheets of paper and then kind of cut to what you want. But this is also really great to have it pre-cut. I have just really laid down the first layer of color, and now we're going to be slowly building up color, gradually getting darker to bring in those finer details. And I'm gonna switch brush sizes. I've been using the round 16. I wanted to cover a lot faster. I also want to show you this brush holder that I have. So this is one of those, there's another YouTuber I follow, and she suggested this brush holder, and I will link to it. It's fantastic. It's actually a soap holder. Isn't that cool? And it is wonderful. So I've got all of the brushes that I'm using. I'm moving now to my Princeton Heritage Series round 6, and I will link to all of this. We want to begin to darken up any of the places that it seems a little bit darker. So I just added a little bit more pigment to this to get a bit of a kind of more pigment so it's not so light. And I'm going to begin by putting in the darker places that I see. So I'm starting out here. I'll speed this up for you so it's maybe not so boring, but I am literally just putting in these kind of darker petals where I see that the petals are a little bit darker. second layer down now on this picture. And while the petals are drying, I am going to grab my round 16 once again, and I think I want to start pulling in some green here. And I like the Windsor green for this. I've just got my Windsor green right here. I'm gonna add some water. It's a pretty fun, bright color green happening. So I'm going to start bringing that color in where I see it. A little bit of Van Dyke brown. Yeah, that's closer to what I want. More Van Dyke brown. Yeah, I'm just gonna mix a little of what I have here on my palette together, and I'm gonna start with these. And by pulling these in, these stems, it kind of grounds the flowers. Do you see how it is beginning to do that? Got that same color over here, it looks like. This tight little bud getting ready to flower. And I'm rinsing off my brush, but I am gonna pick up some of this yellow, quite a bit of yellow, and I wanna pull it into this green. And I'm gonna pick up more yellow. Just adding maybe I should add the green to the yellow over here. And there's these leaves, some leaves that have more yellow in them, like this one over here. There we go. So bringing that in now. I want to pick up more of my permanent rose, adding more pigment to this little blob I've got going. I do want more yellow too. I'm actually going to use my Windsor orange and really just bring in more of that Windsor orange. And a little bit more water. Because it's so pink in some areas. If I go right to red or to a dark red, I feel like I'm really it's going to be too much. So I want to move slowly on some of this little spot right here. And I may need to move to a smaller brush even. I probably do. I'm going to move to my round 2. And here you can see I'm pulling in that color right where those darker spots need to be. Starting to come into shape. While my buds, my blooms are drying, I do want to start bringing in some darker green to fill in this background. I'm going to grab my big brush again, and I want to pull in. This is sap green, and I have some green in another palette with some dark mixed in. I think I'm gonna bring that over here and mix it up. Yeah. And I'm gonna kind of mute my background by really just bringing that in. And I am gonna let some of the leaves not be sharp. I'm going to let them, if they're wet, I'm going to allow my darker, more muted green here kind of touch those spots. So there might be some bleeding, but this is where I said I will get a little bit loose with it and just allow those to have a different look. Now I am going to come back and sharpen that up, but right now this is fine for a background. Just letting colors bleed a little into each other in the background, that's fine. It's going to help me achieve what I'm going for here. A lot of this is just purely play, experimentation. Noticing, okay, what happens if I do this? Or what happens if I do that? That's where the fun comes in. I really want to encourage you to embrace process over outcome. You will enjoy your watercolor practice so much more. And I believe we're always practicing. I am a yoga teacher, and I definitely always call the yoga class just yoga practice. We are coming to practice every day, approaching our mat, approaching our canvas, our paper and paintbrush with the idea of a student coming to learn new things, to explore, to get curious. And the more curious you can be about the process and what's going on, the more satisfaction you will have within your work. Don't put any pressure on yourself, especially in the beginning, to make this look a certain way. I'm painting over that stem even, and you can still see it back there, but it's helping it have that more muted look, that set into the background look that I was hoping for. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Using the fine tip of this round 16 to really get into these finer spots without switching brushes. So and we're in what I call the messy middle of this particular piece. It might still look kind of messy. You might be thinking, where is she going with this? And the more details we add, it's detail by detail by detail, and the outcome will start to emerge. You'll start to see, oh, that's where we're going with this. That's how this is gonna look. But I think each piece always has a messy middle. A spot where you don't know, this picture could really go either way. And I've said it before, I think oftentimes if someone is judging their work, and I highly recommend trying not to judge your work if possible. I know that can be a tall order, but just really approach your work with curiosity. The less you judge it, the more you embrace process, the better the outcome will feel. But what I notice is folks, when they want to start judging their work, they're judging it in a place where it is far from done, right? What I mean by that is, for example, in this, the more details I add, the more layers I add, the more interesting this piece is going to be, the more it's going to pop and reveal itself. Okay, here again, I really see this starting to take shape. It's becoming beautiful. And the next thing that we're going to do is, in the reference photo, you can see some of these spots where it's almost a very, 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 very light lavender color. And that lavender and some of these, the edges and ends of some of these petals and the shadows within your rose really helps bring in definition and detail. So we're going to put some of that in next. I will mix the purple pink that I am looking for, that light lavender color, and maybe it's not even, maybe it's more magenta than violet. Okay, so it's these that I want to paint, these spots right here, and what I see happening is this purple magenta look happening right here. And now you can see this is where it's starting to pop, is with this layer. This is the layer that's going to begin to bring out for us what we are trying to bring out in this particular flower. Okay, that has definitely come out a little bit more. And let's move on to the next rose. This one, really strong purple here. So it's really, when we bring it in, it is setting back. The darker I get, the more the front comes out. So these darker colors really help to bring dimension into what we're doing. And I also see that need to bring it in right here. Okay, so I think I have enough on this part of this middle part, and now I'm going to move down here. Now this shadow on this bottom one right here, it is the darkest purple. So I do want to add a little bit more violet to what I'm doing, even though I'm still keeping it rather light. And I'm going to just bring it in where I see it. There are some highlights that I'm kind of avoiding. So for instance, it is very dark right here, but there's a little highlight along the edge of that petal, and I am avoiding that. Now I'm gonna come back to my permanent rose, and I'm gonna get a good strong amount of pigment on this, and I'm gonna bring in a little bit of this color here, but I want it to mainly be the permanent rose. Yeah. And I'm gonna move to some of these places up here. So there's this just sharp bit of color in here and here, and that is right where we see the tightest part. And there's some sharp edges in here that I want to bring out. So it's these little details that are starting to make it a much more interesting piece than it was on its own. And I'm going a little darker than what I actually see. Okay, it's really beginning to come out. Now I'm going to take a strong bit of purple right here and bring that in. It's a little wet, so it didn't exactly do what I was trying to do, but it's okay. See that in a few other spots. We'll see, that might be a little too sharp, but we'll see what the effect is in a bit. I can always try to lighten it up a bit, but I wanted to give it a little bit of sharper line. It's definitely giving the piece its own feel. It's bringing in some personality that wasn't there, these little purple lines. It was one of those things where I thought, oh, I'm just gonna try that, see what happens. And I'm liking what's coming of that. So I'm gonna pick up a little bit of this pink here dark pink with the violet, and I'm going to do some sharper bits here as well. Yeah, that is definitely bringing out a nice... This is a lighter flower, but I am able to get the effect that I'm trying to go for here by bringing in those details the way I am. And I'm going to add some water, and I'm going to darken this up to a darker pink here. It's definitely starting to take shape, but this one's taking a little while to get it to where we want it to be. And I know that this dark one, it is definitely going to take some work here. All right, these are really beginning to look good. I like what's happening here. I'm enjoying these sharper edges. Let's see if I can do a little bit more here as well. Just dropping in a little bit of that lavender. I'm going to get kind of dramatic with this violet over here and here. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave these roses really where they are, and the next thing that I want to do is I want to play with this background. I haven't quite achieved the background that I want, and I don't actually want to add more details to these tiny ones because that's not where I want the focus of this to be. But I want to darken up some of these spots. So I have a darker green that I'm going to really bring in into spots. Let's see, it's like a little bit of hooker's green with a little bit of Mars black. Okay, I think this is done. What do you think? I mean, we could add lots of details everywhere, but this is a fun, just a great botanical exploration. And now we get to do the most fun part. You know what that is, right? It is taking off the tape. Isn't that beautiful? I think we did a great job. If you enjoyed this project, please like and subscribe and maybe even share with a friend. Thanks so much for being here.